Larry, good to see you. Today, we are talking through one of the toughest transitions in retirement, becoming a spender instead of a saver. I was surprised to learn this. Only one third of retirees are actually comfortable spending their retirement money. Most would rather live off Social Security, pensions, or income from part time work. Larry, you and I have spent hours talking through retirees' biggest fear of outliving their money. But what about the other side of that coin? Don't hoard your money and compromise your quality of life. How do you help people transition from being savers to spenders?
Aaron, it always gets back down to education.
Hmm.
Most people don't know that don't really have a plan or a budget. So when you sit down and you educate them as to what they have, and just give them comfort to know what they can spend, because many people do not understand what their true costs are, what their true they don't have a budget. They come in and just say I want 4,000 a month or 5,000 a month, and when you sit down and do a budget with them, and I always laugh about the budget because that's a scary word to people entering
Hmm.
retirement. Is this is not to restrict you. This is to enable you to show you how much you can spend and not worry about hoarding that money.
Hmm. So, the same study by BlackRock found that a vast majority of retirees still had 80% of their savings 2 decades into retirement. One third even grew their assets. Do those numbers surprise you?
Not at all. Well, they surprised me on the other end. I think that's a very low number. I think it's
Hmm.
a lot more of that. In almost 20 years of my practice, I find people will not spend that money. They had the mindset is that I want to spend X amount. I want to live off X amount. I don't want to touch my assets. They don't realize they spent 40 years saving those assets and they think they're not supposed to spend them, which is that's what they had. But it all gets back down to creating a plan, a strategy, look at the efficiencies of where you're pulling that money from, enabling them to understand that they can, in fact, spend it and not worry about running out of money.
Let's talk about that plan because I know you have specific steps to help people feel comfortable spending their hard earned retirement money. And the first step, you've said it a couple times now, have a spending plan. But again, the same study found that there's one quarter of people who do not have a spending plan.
Again, I think that number is very low. I've just been amazed. I've been amazed over time that people, and look, most people are underspending. That's a really neat thing. I'd say 80% are underspending because they do not have a plan. But if you can show them that and put in some safety nets, like one of the things we do in our planning strategies, Aaron, as you know, again, I always talk about we're a very tax focused shop.
Yep.
It's not cookie cutter. We're looking at everybody's individual situation, but we can use some volatility shield products to say let's put some asset products in there, and let's make sure if your desire is I want to live only off I want the interest off my money. I don't want to touch my principal. If we replace that with a asset protected product, maybe an insurance or an annuity or something that guarantees that money would be passed on and allow them to take advantage of the markets when the markets are good, they can spend a lot more money and still leave that opposed to trying to hoard it and make sure they're leaving what they, just the fear of running out or wanting to leave it to kids.
Right. And the second step is to assess your fixed income sources. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, there again, I mean, we can't have all the monies in the stock market. If you look at the philosophies, and that's been a big change over the last 15, 20 years as well, that used to, it was the old 60-40, you only want 60% stocks, 40% bonds, you're doing that for protection. Well, we've seen in the last few years, bonds have not been so good. The
Hmm.
bonds were a bigger loser last year than stocks. So you have to have some alternative products, maybe some fixed annuities that's paying 4 or 5%, some things that you know will not go down. Your Social Security with that cost of living adjustment that was very key last year with the high inflation of getting about 8.5%, 8.7, I think. So very important to use all the pieces of the puzzle, brokerage accounts for the capital gains opposed to ordinary income. All those things can be very helpful to the overall plan.
Hmm. And so when you've completed step one and two, then whatever that discrepancy is, that is known as the retirement gap. So how do you help people bridge that gap?
There again, a product, we use this terminology. There's some books and things out there. We call it a volatility shield. Is to where,
Hmm.
again, if you have the accounts in different strategies, when the markets are up, we're going to be able to pull extra from that money. If the markets are down, you don't beat that, you don't tear up, you don't destroy uh, your overall nest egg. Could pull it up there. You don't destroy that nest egg. You pull from that volatility shield that had no losses. So you can bridge that gap. Or if you're retiring early, maybe you do not take Social Security for 2 or 3 years. You actually spend some of the IRA to allow that Social Security to grow for that guaranteed fixed income. So there's a lot of strategies. You just have to sit down with someone who understands how to put all those puzzle pieces together. It's so much more efficient. You don't have to hit home runs in the stock market or anywhere. just be efficient with what you have.
Right. And just to have that plan brings the peace of mind. Well said, Larry. If somebody would like to talk through creating their own action plan, what's the best way to reach you?
Give us a call at the office at 615-216-1048, or they can go on our website at info@sfabridge.com.
All right. Larry, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron. Have a great day.